Hello everyone and welcome. It's Eclectic Kelpi, where we dive into the treasure trove of fantastical media. And if you love to have a good cry, then be prepared today because we are doing the saddest deaths Lord of the Rings character tier list. This is going to encompass the Fellowship of the Ring, the Return of the King, and the Two Towers. And this one's gonna be really personal, deeply to me, because Lord of the Rings has been my favorite piece of media since I was like 6 years old when it was first coming out, which I know I've just dated myself, but like Lord of the Rings has been my favorite thing for most of my whole life. So I'm really excited to do this one and go into the saddest deaths because there's surprisingly actually a lot of deaths. And the qualifiers today are that the character has to be named and it has to be an on-screen death, so we have to see the character die. There is one exception to that the character does not die on screen, but we do have a full confirmation of the death, so I am going to be including that one character and we'll get to them when we get to them. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive into the episode. We're going to start off at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start, with Elendil. He's the first person to die in the prologue in terms of like a named character, not like in terms of mass killing of soldiers, on both sides of like elves and orcs. But yeah, I feel like... So originally I was gonna be like, man, I don't care, but you know, I think he was doing his best. He's some guy who was trying to, you know, stop the fall of his kingdom. And I think, you know, I never prepare my thought processes before I do these because I always want it to just be my organic thoughts while I'm doing these. And I think that my thinking is going to have changed from what I thought that I would think. I think that I'm going to have a different perspective now from when I was first watching these movies in terms of my thoughts around like the morality of each character. So I wasn't going to care, but I think that he was a good king who was trying, you know, we don't get enough time with him. Obviously, like if you're in the books, oh my god, I'm going to be insufferable a little bit, but we're gonna roll with it because this is my favorite piece of media ever. So, but we don't get to spend a lot of time with him in the movies. So I think that Prison Sorrows fits Elendil. He's in it for such a short time, but he is just a king who's trying to save his people. His son, on the other hand, makes bad choices, and you know, that's literally the whole point, though, is like a commentary on the corruption of power within humanity and like how men are susceptible. Men is like a race, not a gender, but like men are susceptible to corruption because when you give somebody power and they don't know how to use it, or if you're easily swayed to be like, oh, I can do good things with this, but then ultimately it's being conscientious of not taking what you can't handle, and also not being power hungry and grabbing for power. So, you know, as much as his dad was like doing good, trying to be a good king, like, and obviously the story, so I'm doing it very meta in terms of like, obviously the story wouldn't have gone anywhere if Isildur had put the ring in the volcano and just like, that's it, Sauron is dead and we're moving on and everybody lives happily ever after and, you know, there's never any war ever again. Obviously the story had to happen and there was a commentary on it. But in terms of his choices, bad choices. And in context of what we see, there's not really any redeemable quality to him. I don't really care. He gives a little Denethor energy, which is not a good vibe. So I didn't care that he died. Lurtz, I think that was such an epic fight. I feel like we have to give Lurtz the Happy Gandalf Hobbit dance. That's the energy, is the Happy Gandalf Hobbit dance. But I feel like it was such a good fight between Aragorn and Lurtz. Like, that was like such an epic finale of Fellowship of the Ring. This was like a grand death, I think. Just in like how the fight was so epic. And who doesn't love a good decapitation on a Thursday afternoon? The Balrog, I think, also is pretty epic. Like, I think that's one of the things that Lord of the Rings does so well. Actually, Lord of the Rings does everything well, and I'm gonna get to my points on that in a different video. Like, I'm gonna talk about Lord of the Rings a lot, I think, as we go along on this YouTube journey. But yeah, I think that was just such an epic battle, and it's so cool because it was, if you're into the Silmarillion and back lore, it's basically like two minor, like essentially demigods going to battle. Gandalf and the Balrog going to battle is like huge and epic. So that was pretty. I feel like the Gandalf Hobbit happy dance section now is not like a we're happy they died as in previous segments of this tier list. I feel like the Gandalf Hobbit happy dance is now the section of like, that was an epic death and we love to see it, we love to watch it. So that's what we're doing from now on. Yeah, that's what I think. Gothmog, I don't think that I care. Maybe I'll give it finally. You know what? Okay, the everything's changing. We're changing the rules mid video. This is what it is now. Okay, the tiers go as saddest death. It's the saddest death. That still counts. Heartbreaking is heartbreaking, still as is. Tears from Frodo, which is now applicable because it's a Lord of the Rings video. The tiers are, yes, tears. Prayers and sorrows, yes, is like, you know, sadness, and that's fine, but not like real visceral sadness. I don't care, still I don't care. And then Gandalf Hobbit happy dance is going to be like epic fights that end in a grand finale for a character's death, and then finally is going to be like what the Gandalf Hobbit happy dance would have been, because I don't actually have like any like finally, like, because the difference with like this one compared to like Buffy or Last Kingdom or Angel, like, we're with these characters for such a short time, but they utilize the time so well. These are I think these are the best movies ever created. And so there's no character that I'm like, good, yes, finally they're dead. Like, I hated them. I didn't want them to be here. Maybe sans one character. But there's none that really are like intolerable that I hated, that I wanted to die or like not be in this piece of media anymore as it went on. So I think that the finally is just going to be like, yes, we're happy that they're dead because then the heroes won, and that's the whole point of the story. So that's what we're going to do from now on. So with all of that being said, we're going to continue. Guritz is my favorite orc. I think that this is a very cute orc because he reminds me of like a Who from The Grinch. Just the nose, and I love that he has a little skull on his hat. He just like is like cute, you know? He just that made me like, I don't know, but he's just so precious. Like, I don't know, he looks like he needs to be adopted and rehabilitated and like get him a cat bed and I don't know, like an iced tea, and he'd be great. So that's how I feel. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that's it's such a well done prosthetic, and they did such a good job. Maybe it's the nose. He looks like a Who to me, and I think he's cute. Like, he's just like a little, I don't know. Anyways, finally, because, you know, villains were like happy that he's gone. Theodred was the exception. So because we don't see him like actually die, like Grandma Wormtongue says that, oh, he must have died during the night sometime. But we do like see his funeral. He's a confirmed dead character, like via us seeing his corpse go into the little grave mounds in Edoras. So that's why he's there. Or that's why he's the exception to like seeing him die. And I think it's for Zanzaro's. He's just, he's Theoden's son. He's doing his best. He's there. We're sad about it. Grishnok, I think same thing. Squished by Tearbird. It's good. He's gone. No cannibalism. Thank you. Good job. But Gorbag, I think, has to go in the, like, Happy Gandalf Hobbit dance. Because it's so cool. Like, it's so epic when Sam comes and, like, stabs him with Sting and is like, not if I, like, stick you first. And it's just so epic. And I just love Sam. Samwise Gamgee is the best one. Yeah. So I think it's a like epic moment, and Frodo and Sam get to reconnect after Shelob, and it's so, yeah. Makes me happy and like fills my heart because it's just such an epic moment, and we love to see it. And the Cave Troll, I think the Cave Troll under the new categorization of this, I think goes into finally like pretty epic fight. I think that was a good first big serious battle for the Fellowship. Actually, it is their first battle, realistically, is in the Mines of Moria. So that first enemy sets up... Is it their first enemy? Yeah, it's their first battle as the Fellowship. I'm not going to count the hobbits fighting the Nazgul on Weathertop, because that wasn't like the Fellowship. So it's the first time the Fellowship are fighting. It's a good first boss, I think. Well, other than the Watcher of the Water. Okay, there's a lot of lore. It's a good first battle for them as a collective. I like it. Good job. He was an epic kill. As was the Witch King of Angmar. I think we'll give a top tier separate epic kill. Like the best, most like epic death, I think has to go to the Witch King of Angmar. I feel like Éowyn, like the I am no man, stab you in the face, like that was just so perfect and fills the viewer with inspiration and pride and like that like soaring of joy. And I just think that like, man, Éowyn and Sam are my favorite characters. I just love them so much. I think that the Mouth of Sauron, this dude, I think he's gotta go here too. Just a good job. He was menacing. He's cool. Aragorn cuts his head off. There's a lot of decapitation in this trilogy, I have come to realize, actually. Anyways. Yeah, I think that he's such a cool design. Man, all of the stylistic choices in Lord of the Rings, like all of it just is so beautiful. Like the whole, everything was perfect. Wouldn't change it. No notes. Continue on. Thank you. Saruman, I think he's got to go finally too. I think that Saruman and Gandalf are such good foils for each other because Saruman is what happens when you are sent on a peace mission and your goal is to try to help the world, but then power corrupts. It's really interesting to see like Gandalf and Saruman's dynamic, and how there was like respect and like they've known each other for thousands of years, and then just bad choices. Grima Wormtongue. I feel like younger me would have been more celebratory about his death and see him more as a bad guy than I think. Well, I'm two minds of this. Okay. So I think that he is a horrible person, for sure. He makes horrible choices. He deliberately promotes the killing of women and children. He tells Saruman the people of Edoras are leaving to go to Helm's Deep, and there's going to be women and children on the road, and they're going to be vulnerable. And so, like, why not go and kill everybody then? Like, he's a horrible person. But I feel like he's kind of in the Isildur area where it's, again, like, it's just the corruptibility of men, the race, not the gender. And, well, maybe a little bit of the gender, because I don't see, like, Eowyn didn't get corrupted. So, I don't know. But, anyways, if Aragorn is the ultimate good, and the representation of everything that, like, men, the race, not the gender, are supposed to strive towards, is being, connected, and considerate, compassionate, and, you know, caring of other people, and fighting to protect the weak, and, you know, all of the, like, ideals of what a person should be, then I think that Grima and Isildur are the opposite of that. The corruptible, the vying for power, the ones who are trying to overcompensate for this feeling of weakness. And I think that that's kind of the main problem, is that it's an overcompensation for the feelings of weakness, whereas, like, Aragorn promotes this confidence and understanding of himself and his own abilities, and his goals are bigger than just him, whereas these characters' goals and mentalities are so insecure within themselves that they aren't able to let go of that, like, need to vie for power. So I think that he's just a really unfortunate soul who got corrupted, and it's sad. And it's a sad situation that this is, you know, because, like, it's kind of alluded to when he's talking to Theoden, like, after Theoden has come back into himself and is no longer under the control of Saruman. It kind of gives the impression that he was, like, a good man of Rohan, and then he just fell into a bad space, and that sucks for him. So I think he just needs therapy. All of that to say, I didn't really care that he died. But I think that it's a really good commentary on, like, the dangers of not having a strong sense of self, and fearing inferiority, and fearing this sort of, like, you know, when you have an externalized sense of self rather than an internalized sense of self, this is what you're going to be susceptible to, is you're going to be susceptible to suggestion and other people trying to control and manipulate you. Like, if he's being offered power because he externalizes that he doesn't have it, rather than feeling like an internalized sense of self and you know, like, efficacy within himself, then I don't think that he would have been able to be controlled and manipulated into being a bad guy. So there you go. That's my psychology hot take of the episode. All of that being said, Denethor I absolutely hate so much. I think most people do. He's just awful. And I feel like, okay, it's kind of again the same thing with Grima, in the sense of, if I want to be super shallow about it, I could easily be like, good job, he's dead, and be happy about it. If I kind of want to go into a deeper, like, psychology analysis assessment of the sadness of his death, I could talk about that he has been, like, the only one really defending the world against Sauron's forces for the last however many years. Like, his predecessors, you know, basically since Isildur, well, since Elendil, because Isildur really didn't even make it back to Minas Tirith before he died. So, like, he has, his lineage has been the only line of defense, and so there's a lot of generational trauma, and, like, there's a lot of stuff around Denethor that he definitely could have done better in terms of not being an asshole to his kids. But, like, he has trauma. Like, it obviously that's not an excuse. So, I'm gonna be shallow about it and be happy that he's dead. Because I think he's the worst. But if we're actually looking into, like, him as a person, him as a human character, then I think that there's something to be said about how he's kind of in a really rough spot. Like, he's in a horrible situation in terms of the war. He's also being tempted with the corruptibility of the ring. He's also, you know, lost his kid that meant a lot to him. And yeah, he definitely needed to be a better father to the other kid. But there are things to be said about, like, how, like, why he's so awful. And it's not an excuse, but I do think that those things come into play when assessing, like, hatred of him. Because, yes, I don't like him. I think he's a horrible character. But within that, I think that he's an incredible character because it is, like, again, a very strong representation of that kind of person. So I think that he's awful, but I think that, like, the writing of this character is fantastic. Anyways, tangenting. Yeah, good. I'm glad he's dead. He was awful, and I didn't like him. And then next, Madril. Prayers and Sorrows. I have, like, basically nothing to say. He was a guy doing his job. He is Faramir's soldier at Osgiliath. Gothmog killed him. Prayers and Sorrows. Sorry. Same thing with Hama. Prayers and Sorrows. Sorry. He's a guy doing his job. He got eaten by a warg. Yeah, there's not really much to say about those two. They did their best. They were good, loyal soldiers to their kingdoms. Haldir. I'm going to make an unprecedented choice. I'm going to make an executive decision and say that he is in between Frodo, Tears, and Heartbreak. Because I can't make a decision on this, actually. Obviously his death was so sad. His death was so sad. Honoring the alliance of elves and men, coming to the Battle of Helm's Deep, having that bond from the Fellowship of the Ring going into Two Towers. Obviously he doesn't have, like, that much screen time, so we don't get, like, super connected to him. But I think he's in between. That's what I'm going with. It was heartbreaking, but not, like, so heartbreaking. But I think it's more than just a little bit sad. And I think, he was kind of the second, like, big hero character to die. So, that's where, well, that's not even true because Gandalf also died. Anyways, he's going in the middle. He's heartbreaking, but not so heartbreaking, and he's sorrowful, but a little bit more sorrowful. Deagle, I think, has got to also be Prayers and Sorrows, because he also was just some dude, and he just was trying to have a good day, and he got murdered by his cousin, and that kind of sucks. And I feel like that's rough, buddy. Gollum's a hard one. I think that he's also got to be a Prayers and Sorrows. Because I think, like, Gollum was the ultimate representation of what the corruption of the ring does. He's, like, the ultimate representation of, like, how far this will go, while also still showing the dichotomy of, like, a person, because Smeagol, the, like, personality comes out every once in a while, and we see that Gollum isn't just, like, a mindless evil being. Gollum could be his own thesis paper, of, like, the dichotomy of mental health, of, like, this person who is wanting a better life, who's wanting to, like, have healthy relationships and wants to be friends with Frodo. I think that Smeagol has, like, the healthy ambition, but I think that, like, this is the epitome of, like, a representation of addiction. There's a person who really wants to do better and to have good relationships and who wants to, you know, have a better life and improve, but then there's the addiction, or then there's, like, the counterpart to Smeagol is Gollum, who is so entrenched in his obsession, in his addiction, that he can't see past just that. Just the ring. Just getting back the ring. And it's tragic. Maybe he's tears. Maybe we're breaking the rules today, and maybe he's like prayers and sorrows, but also tears. Because it's quite sad. I don't think that I cried because of it, but I think he deserves more than prayers and sorrows. But I didn't personally cry. So, that's where we're gonna have that. But yeah, I think that Gollum is a very well-written tragic character, and to have him die while Frodo lived, and to have that counterpart of here's the extremist example of what this corruptibility can cause is a complete downfall, and then to have Frodo, because they didn't, like, Frodo didn't kill Gollum. Gollum and Frodo basically danced to death. I mean, in the book at least, Gollum does a happy dance and falls in. Like, Frodo doesn't even push him or, like, grab for the ring or anything. Like, he just falls. So it really is just, like, the downfall of that obsession, this really unhealthy connection to this thing that is dangerous and causing harm, and that's the result of that. But Frodo having a resiliency factor within, like, Sam and his relationships, and having, like, a reason to come back, even though he, like, at the end of it realizes that he can't stay, that even though he, like, saved the Shire, it doesn't, like, he goes on his own journey and his own growth and experience, but he has reasons to come back. He has reasons to make it. And so that's also really sad, is Smeagol, Gollum, doesn't have a reason. He's a very good tragic character. Sauron. This one, I think it's super clear. Sauron has to be the last, finally. Good job. We killed them. It's great. Boromir, I think it's obvious. I think it's really obvious that he is in the heartbreak. I think also because, okay, well, I think also he deserves to be heartbreak because he was really, like, his intentions were good. Like, again, what I was saying with Denethor, like, his family, his people have been fighting for the safety of the world against Mordor for generations. Like, that's been their job. That's what they're doing, and they're really struggling. And so he's just, like, trying to finish the battle and save the world and like, get to the conclusion. Like, he's like, okay, my people can't do this anymore, so I have to kind of step up where my father's not really doing that good of a job anymore. Like, I have to really, like, step up and get this done to save the world. So it's really heartbreaking. And it's also, like, people are really hard on Boromir for... I used to be really hard on Boromir. I did not used to be a Boromir apologist, but now I'm a little bit of a Boromir apologist, in the sense of, like, he was so focused on the solution rather than the process, which is, I think, what his downfall was in terms of the corruptibility that he could have had with the ring. But even then, he caught himself. He was like, hey, I had a moment till, like, I lapsed, and, like, you know, I had a little bit of a snap when he, like, had the scuffle with Frodo, but then he was like, bro, I'm sorry, wait, never mind, like, I getcha, like, yeah, I had a oops, and, like, his whole goal is just to save the world, and he wants to do that as quickly as possible because he's seen the suffering. His people are suffering. He sees it every day in, like, right in his face how bad things have gotten. So it makes sense. He's a very heartbreaking character. I think he's a good complement to Aragorn in the sense of, like, if Aragorn is the ultimate ideal, Boromir is the active strive. Because nobody's going to be Aragorn. Like, no person can be perfect. And I think that that's the whole point, is that Aragorn is the ultimate ideal. He is the perfect within these characters, like within this world, within the characters that are presented in this series. And I think that Boromir is the one that people can connect with the most because he isn't perfect, but he's trying. And he does not have to keep fighting. Like, he fights so hard for Merry and Pippin. He goes to his death trying so hard to make a positive difference, and he's remorseful. And, like, you know, he just... I didn't used to like him that much, but, like, the context and understanding that I have for him now, he's a fantastic character. And it's just so tragic. And he was trying so hard. And yeah, I think he deserves a little bit more love. And next, even though this one's kind of cheap, is Gandalf. I think Gandalf is really sad. I think that he goes into, like, you know, and I'm going to count his death because he explicitly says he dies. We see him die when he's fighting the Balrog in the Two Towers, when he's talking with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and he's like, I straight up died and I faded on the mountaintop after I killed the Balrog, and then I was sent back. The point isn't that he was sent back by the Valar. He died. He died, and it was very traumatic. When I first saw it, I was very sad, and then it was fantastic when he came back. So I'm going to put him in tears because I was very sad when he died. And I love how, this is one of my favorite things. So one of my favorite things that films and TV shows do is they leave space for the characters to react to the deaths of these characters. So I think more so than Gandalf dying, even though he does have an epic, like, fly you fools, you know, love to see it. But I think more so than his actual death is the characters reacting to it. Because obviously Frodo has such a strong connection to him. Aragorn has such a strong connection to him, even though he's like, you know, okay, like, task oriented, we have to continue, like, we have to go, like, we are not safe here. He's still feeling it. And, like, you know, and we see, like, Sam and Merry and Pippin, they're all, like, in so, like, turmoil because he's anyways, I love the time that they spend to show that they are mourning and they cared and are sad about it. Yeah, I think the characters' reactions to Gandalf's death were just spectacular. And last but not least, in fact most, the saddest death in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is King Theoden. I think that King Theoden's death was, well, also, rest in peace, Bernard Hill. What a fantastic actor. He's just spectacular. But King Theoden, I think that, one, you know, parental figures, they always get me. So his, like, exchange with Éowyn, like, I cry every time. I think that, like, his redemption and his... So I think, like, what I've been saying for, like, the whole list, essentially, is the corruptibility of men, the race, not the gender, is associated with this feelings of insecurity and inferiority. Whereas the ones who are not corruptible don't have those feelings of insecurity and inferiority. We see that with, like, Aragorn. He doesn't get corrupted. We see that with Samwise Gamgee, who doesn't get corrupted, and he holds the ring for a little while. Frodo lasts like a year and only at the very end is slightly corrupted. But, you know, like that's from exposure for such a long time, and he is, you know, because there isn't that inferiority, there isn't this like concept of self-doubt. Whereas Theoden, he starts with this concept of self-doubt and he moves away from it, and he like even says in his like dying speech, like he goes to his forebears and whose mighty company he will no longer feel shame. Like he comes into his own, and it's just so good. And I just cry every time. Yeah, the saddest death. And I think, again, like how I was saying with Gandalf, they give space and time for that to, like, the other characters are reacting, and so you're kind of having that emotional connectivity with yourself as the viewer and the character who is feeling the feelings that we will then feel as viewers, because Éowyn is distraught. And then when we see Éomer come in and he's distraught over Éowyn, and it just, there's so much space and time given to Theoden, and his death monologue is just amazing. The writing in this movie is just incomparable. I love it so much, and I think it's just perfection. But yeah, I think that Theoden has such a beautiful transformation arc throughout the two films that he's in, the Two Towers and the Return of the King. I think that he goes from this stubborn old man who is fed up with the world state and is also been corrupted by Saruman and having a really bad go of it, into this leader who can kind of like conceptualize needing support from others, and then allows for Aragorn to help him, and also understands compassion and goes to help Gondor, even though he makes a whole, like, he has like a list of reasons why he doesn't believe that he should go and help them, because the Gondorians weren't there to honor the alliance with the people of Rohan, but he chooses to do the right thing because he's a good, honorable character, and he has a absolutely beautiful and glorious death. And I love it. And that was it! That is the master tier list of all of the characters of Lord of the Rings deaths. I went very in-depth with this one, so hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. These tier lists that we've been doing quite a few of now, so I think I'll continue doing them because they're kind of fun. I'm enjoying the thought processes that go into these. Not just the emotional reactions, but sort of the commentary that comes from killing off a character, because most of the time it's poignant. Most of the time there's a reason. And so how the series or movie deals with the death after the death is more showing and more telling, and more emphasis on the importance of that character in that moment, more so than the death, and I've been enjoying them, so hopefully you've been enjoying them too. Let me know which character death you find the most sad, or the most vindicating, or the most tragic in the comments down below. But thank you all so much for watching. Everything with love, and we see you next time in the Treasure Trove. Bye!